Hey everybody, it's Tracy again, and the UK EMI is an exceedingly profitable venture, but has its limitations. And the reason why it's so profitable, and if you're like a fan of like Premier League, you'll see literally almost half of the teams are sponsored by UK EMIs. The reason why it's so profitable is that the nature of the UK economy is that there's massive remittance platforms overseas, right? So you have a ton of money and coming in and out of the UK, and they need the payment rails, consumers and businesses, to make it work effectively. And the process to get it is fairly streamlined and surprisingly easier than a lot of like offshore jurisdictions. So typically, and this is promulgated by the FCA, you can get a license within 3 months if at the time of submission of the license, everything is there, right? Like obviously in the regulatory process, as it is anywhere, there's going to be tweaks and requests for, changes and things of that nature. But if everything is there and in, semi-complete state, you can get the license in 3 months. If you submit the application and you don't have a complete application, it goes out to 12 months and you get thrown to the back of the pile and you literally wait, right? It's like your punishment for not having your shit together at the time of application. And, it's really kind of straightforward, no different than really anywhere else, whether it be getting money transmitter licenses in the US or Canada or anywhere, business plan, copies of policies and procedures, huge emphasis on IT security and the safeguarding of funds, right? As it relates to like payments, remittances, stuff like that. So you need very in-depth, specific IT security policies and the right people in place and how that's going to be managed, which is different than a lot of places, even in the US. And the big catch, right, that a lot of people are finding to be, or, would consider the license unpalatable, is the fact that your management, your core management, not only do you have to have a local office, but you cannot operate the EMI from elsewhere. You have to operate it from the UK. And core management, and the statute even reads this way, literally has to be in the office every day. Now, there's shades of gray to that. They don't actually have to be there, nor do they check. But you have to have like an internal presence, and management, CEO, C-level suite has to be in London or wherever in the UK to meet the requirements of the obligation. So it's economic substance times 100, because you can't just put some ministerial employees in the office and say, okay, well, that's sufficient as it is to run a bank even offshore. You have to have your core management residing in the UK, and they'll check, right? The FCA will check. So it's, and with Brexit, the opportunity to sort of, passport that license throughout the rest of the EEA does no longer exist. So you're really like focused on remittance in and out of the UK, which again is wildly profitable because even for being a relatively small nation, there is massive remittance in and out, both on the consumer and corporate side. So, I wouldn't say simple, but straight line, very well educated, heeled regulators who get what you're trying to do, right? And discernible deadlines, assuming you get your act together at the time that you apply, and really reasonable fees, right? Like, your application for a major, EMI license is £5,000, right? So it's really kind of cost effective, not terribly onerous in terms of time or money to get the license. But again, it has to be UK centric, right? Like I'm not saying you can't own it and have other people run it or anything like that, which people do, but the core group, the C-suite, all need to have like UK passports or at a minimum have UK residents where they will verify, the FCA will verify. So, it's a big market, but it doesn't give you a lot of scope outside of the UK. And it also doesn't help you a great deal if you are centered in, let's say, Dubai or the United States, wherever, you're going to have to develop a whole other management team to sit in the UK to manage the day-to-day. And they will check. And of course, from a crypto side, it's sort of verboten. There's a very fine line between EMI activities related to payments and all things accustomed there too, and crypto, right? Like if you go through, very few EMIs in the UK, and I think at last count there's like 58 or something like that. There's very few that will touch crypto because it's not part of that statute. There's separate licensing, which we'll talk about at a different time. And so very few EMIs can really dabble in crypto, whether it be as a payment rail, conversion, what have you. So that's the UK EMI at a glance. If you have questions, definitely hit me up, Adam at adamtracy.io, and I will talk to you next time. Cheers.